problem, you stated that with the way that Dayton media covers crime in the city. Tell me why, and then I'm going to play devil's advocate to a certain extent too.
Yeah.
So
I've always challenged the media to report crime accurately and fairly, and they'll say that they're reporting it accurately and fairly. Now I would beg to differ. I'd say they may be reporting it accurately in that they're reporting that the incident has occurred, but they would do better to report an incident if it's known to have been drug related. They should say it's likely this is a drug-related crime. Or if it was a situation of domestic violence, they could say, well, the suspect is related or connected through a relationship with the victim. You know what I mean? Because it changes the perception of how we see crime. When they report that there's a shooting at Salem and Gettysburg, and that's all they report, then we, the general public, suspect that that's a random act of violence. The reality is we have almost zero random acts of violence. I mean, it's extremely low. You might get one case in 3 years. And so, you know, the chances of being a victim of crime in Dayton are minimalized if you are not a perpetrator of crime. So, and a lot of it's drug related. I mean, the homicides, we used to have 110 homicides a year back in the 70s and 80s, on average, 110. And I think the most we've had in the last 10 years is 40. I think last year was 35. We've averaged around 35 to 40 for the last 5 or 6 years that I know of. And half of those are drug related, right? And pretty much the other half are domestic violence situations, and we can't control either. So, I don't know why I don't know why the media makes such a big deal of it. There's probably something more intriguing at a national level than there is at a local level, which also creates a problem. And I thought about this yesterday. The fact that some bizarre crimes that happen in Texas or New York or Florida get reported here locally means that subconsciously we localize that incident. So you may have somebody who's kidnapped and buried alive in Florida. Because we see it on the local news, we think that could happen here, and those are rare incidences too. So I just wish the media would report things more fairly.
Okay. As I talked yesterday, from a media standpoint, you said this in commission meetings. The media is here to make money, and obviously media has to get eyeballs on their stuff, or nobody wants to advertise with them. They don't make money, and they're no longer there. Violent crime or any kind of, psychological rubbernecking, if you will, is a fantastic standby for all media in all towns. Don't mean fantastic as in fantastic that it happened, but it's not really a Dayton phenomenon per se. I mean, if you go to other cities, any of that kind of stuff they can grab. What would you tell a news director who has to pay people and has to, keep eyeballs and keep advertisers, to do differently while keeping things fair and contextual and all of that?
My original statement was actually at the commission meeting where I said, and they do not serve the public well. They serve themselves first. Their job is not to report the news necessarily accurately. It's to report the news in such a way that they get to pay their salaries, right? And what they didn't show was all the heads in the audience. And that was a pretty full crowd that day, right? Shaking their heads up and down. So I guess they use commercial breaks and stuff to say, be right back, and we'll talk about this, or coming up on channel blah blah, this. They could sensationalize that section or keep you intrigued, so you sit there through the commercials, which pays their bills, and then they could lead in with the story, but at the end they simply just say this may be drug related, or it looks like this is drug. I mean, that's all they got to do at the end of the story. The other thing they could do is intersperse good stuff with bad stuff. So instead of leading with 5 bad stories, car flipped over. Well, cars flip over every day, or there was a shooting, or so-and-so chopped their foot off with a hoe, or whatever. They could say, well, there was a shooting, and then these 3 good things happened, and then, oh, by the way, we also had a guy chop his foot off with a hoe, and this, that, and the other. So that they're not leading with the negativity. Or they could lead one, but there's more positive stuff happening in this town than negative. And they fail to report it, and so people are falsely led to believe that nothing is happening here. When in reality, if you go on Facebook, you see all the people pushing the good stuff. I mean, and I can tell you for this, this is a fact. The news gets their news from Facebook. When I'm on TV in the morning, they're sitting there with laptops on the desk, and they're looking at Facebook, and I mean that's where they're getting the news.
Sure, I've had breaking, like I said,
Right.
we've had breaking news about people in the community from their Facebook page.
Right.
And
So
it's a great tool.
So if Facebook is reporting all the positive stuff, and the media is reporting the negative stuff, you should ask yourself why. I mean, the media may say, well, it's what our clients want, but the reality is they're losing people. I know so many people, I don't even watch the news. It's depressing. I don't want to watch all the negative stuff. I get on Facebook and say, oh, wow, this is great, this is going on, this is exciting.
Well, that brings me up, discussed this with before, I call it the local Columbine syndrome, where I've had relatives from out of town, who lived locally, but in the periphery of Dayton, scared to death to come to Wayne Avenue. And I don't remember I mean, there's just not much goes on Wayne, really, besides people walking up and down the street, bus stop to go to Dollar Tree or Kroger's or...
Well, there's an accident there every week, probably.
Yeah, I mean, besides traffic,
right.
that's an issue. But as far as like neighborhood safety, I've never had ever felt in any way threatened walking around there in like 8 years I lived there. But I had relatives who had this image that someone's gonna, as soon as they got out of the car, they're gonna have to run as fast as they could to the door so they could get behind the doors, so the bullets, wouldn't get to them. Talk about contextualizing. I think that's, I mean, I'll be honest, I think that's where a lot of the reporting goes wrong, is it's not contextualized, like you said. It paints a whole 55 square area, or 55 square mile area as the same area. So.
Right, when they report a crime, they say Dayton, and there are 65 neighborhoods in the city of Dayton. So if something's happening downtown, they should say Dayton downtown neighborhood, or Dayton Twin Towers neighborhood. They don't. They just say Dayton, there was a shooting today, and I keep saying Salem and Gettysburg. They'll stand in front of the courthouse downtown. Here I am in front of the courthouse. There was a shooting today at such and such and such and such streets, and what they fail to say is, which is 1.5 miles from where I'm standing. And they ought to. Or they should take it exactly where it is and say, I'm standing at the crossroads of such and such, there was a shooting here today. So X number of people were involved, 5 casings have been found. Please say at this moment in time it is likely that it is drug related. That's all they have to do. And it changes the whole perception. The public safety issue is still there, because if it's happening at a gas station or something in a public spot, you could become an innocent bystander. But the reality is, the shooting isn't random. People aren't just picking people and sniping at them. They're shooting at each other, and you make it.
Well, that being said, that knowing that 50% of these situations come from drug situations, whether they're dealers or whatever, however their involvement in that ladder goes, or domestic violence situations. Out of those two, is there anything the city can do or is doing? We have vigils and stuff, but obviously a vigil can't jump in front of a situation. So what concrete can the city do? If anything, I mean, you can't be there like Superman to jump in front of.
No, I don't. I mean, it's almost as if you have to change the culture to realize that shooting someone is not the solution. People are just young, and they don't know any better. They're under 25. A lot of these people
blow a gasket and get hot-headed and.
Right, and they think the solution is I'm going to go kill so-and-so, and they do, and eventually they get caught. Doesn't matter.
Well, that's kind of a dramatic time in a lot of people's lives when you're younger like that. I think certain situations, when you get a little older, you take in stride a little more,
Mhm.
as when you're younger, you might blow up and emotional.
In the old days, these people would be in the military.
Mhm.
And that's what would happen. You'd either survive or you'd make a mistake. But now we need educated people in the military because the equipment is so sophisticated that you have to have a GED in order to know what button to push on your body armor, you know? So these people have no other place to go except to hit the streets. I mean, you and I have had that discussion, because you used to drive school bus, and you said somebody came up to you and said they wanted to be a drug dealer, and you said, why? You can't leave your house, you can't go on vacation, you're trapped in your neighborhood.
You got to use all cash because
right,
you can't. There's
right.
all these like limitations. I'm like, you got to work so hard to stay under the radar.
Right, to protect what it is that you're striving for.
Yeah.
And then once you and it's very difficult to get out of it. Once you say, well, I'm done, I want to walk away, you can't, because everyone knows who you are and what you did, and they're going to rob you. I mean, you're setting yourself up for a life of failure, or a short life, because somebody will always crawl up and try to take from you. I mean, it's a shame that people don't anticipate the consequences of their choices. Sometimes they just say, it's about money, and I want good clothes, and I want this, and it's a shame. There's a quality of life issue that's missing.
Obviously, you've got issues with the way the media reports some things. If Channel 22, Channel 7, Dayton Daily News, whoever, next week said, we want to station a reporter just to be an observer in City Hall 40 hours a week, would you guys be open to that?
Well, they have an assigned. The Dayton Daily News has Jeremy Kelly assigned to City Hall, and he's here quite often and requesting information and asking questions and things. So, I mean, we're a public entity. We have to be open to the public. Now, there are certain meetings that department heads have that they don't make. Because I guess certain rules and regulations about keeping things private for businesses and stuff that they won't have people come to. But when you have at least 3 commissioners involved, it has to be a public event. Sure. It irks me though sometimes. I get phone calls at home from reporters saying, Mayor, I'm doing a story about such and such, and I wanted to get your input. Now, I have no clue what their story is because they've just told me about it. They want me to give them a sound bite for their story for which they're being paid, right, immediately. And I usually say, well, I'll call you, let me get some information, I'll call you back tomorrow. And they'll say, well, my story, I need it done by 4:30 this afternoon. And I'll go, well, then I'll call you tomorrow night. Because it irks me that they think that it's so important that I should give them a sound bite for their story that they're writing, and I have no clue what it is, their angle or anything. And then they get upset, like, I'm sorry, I don't do that. I will not give you information if I'm not aware of what's going on. The perfect thing was my election night. I waited till I knew for sure that I had either won or lost before I got in front of the camera. That wasn't the case for the incumbent. And the media was pushing me to get in front of the camera. It's their story. And
Then I think it was also brushing up on getting close to 11. So.
It was about 7 minutes after 11. Right, yeah, they wanted the thing. And I said, I'm not getting in front of that camera till I know for sure. That's the way I am. I'm not, I don't jump the gun, I don't assume anything. And if I have my facts straight, then I'll divulge them. But
Now I know you blogged about this. Now we're not going to see any kind of Texas-style cage match between you and Don Hammond.
No.
Anytime soon.
No, he tried.
Or at Drake's gym.
He tried to get another interview about something else, trying to sensationalize something, and we just declined to talk to him.
Okay.
I mean, that's how I'll deal with him. Nothing against the guy. The way I look at it, I'd never been interviewed by him before, but you get one chance to make a first impression. That's all I need to say.